Hey besties, welcome to Cozy Chats. My name is Randy and I'm here to normalize a cozier way to do business for chronically exhausted entrepreneurs. But quickly, before we get into today's episode, I want to extend an invite to all the chronically cozy entrepreneurs out there looking for a community that understands them. I know how isolating it can feel to run a business while managing a chronic illness or neurodivergence, which is why I built the Chronically Cozy community for entrepreneurs where you can share your creations, connect, collaborate, and feel supported. If that sounds like your vibe, we would love to have you. Join us today at chronicallycozylife.com or through the link in my bio. Now, sit back, get cozy, and let's get into today's episode. Hello, besties, and welcome to Chronically Cozy Chats, a podcast normalizing a cozier way to do business for chronically exhausted entrepreneurs. My name is Randy. I'm a cozy content strategist helping chronically ill and neurodivergent entrepreneurs grow their business in a way that works for their capacity. Today's guest is Kay. I'm so excited to have her here. She's known online as the Canine Detective. She is a virtual dog trainer, and today we're switching it up a little bit, where we usually talk about tips for managing business and chronic illness and neurodivergence. Today, we're going to be talking about how we're going to take care of the fluffy members of our family when we're feeling low energy and have unpredictable symptoms. So sit back, get cozy, and let's chat. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've been really enjoying binging your podcast lately, and now it's a bit of a starstruck moment of like, wait, I'm on Randy's podcast? I'm the expert?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe someone just said that. Like, oh, now I'm all like, make me blush. Love it. No, it's so exciting. And I'm just like connecting with all the members of this community has just been so amazing. Such a privilege. I love it so much. I just took like a little break from filming. So I'm just kind of like coming back to it. And I'm so excited to get back into talking to everybody. So today we're going to talk about what you do on my podcast, and tomorrow we're going to talk about what I do on your podcast. And I'm so excited for this. This is so much fun. And we're going to talk about our fuzzy little friends, and I'm so excited. So, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kirsten, but you can call me Kay. I have 3 dogs of my own, and I operate a virtual dog training practice called the Canine Detective. I'm a solopreneur, solo practitioner. So it's just me, myself, and I for anything you've seen me on. And it is really interesting how I got into this. You can find that story elsewhere online, so I won't clog up Randy's space. But I ended up training dogs virtually because I found it to be a more effective way to train. And then it just worked out that it was also helpful for me and my neurodivergence and how my body and brain works. So it was kind of a happy accident that I ended up doing things the way that I did.
So nice. I love the happy accidents. I find that most of us neurodivergent and chronically ill folk get pulled into those. This podcast actually being
Mhm.
one of them. This was a random ADHD idea that has just been going really well. So
I
love
think
that.
that I was just gonna say, to add to that, I think it speaks to masking and not like, I think if we actually listen to what our body is telling us or our mind or how we naturally want to do things, we end up being more innovative or choosing paths that align with us a lot better. But just when we're heavily masking or thinking about what it is we should be doing, we don't listen to that. And that's partly what leads into a lot of friction. But I'll get off my soapbox here.
No, by all means, we are soapboxing around here because that is totally it. And that's why I started the community. And that's why I started this business, was because I wanted to help chronically ill and neurodivergent people do their marketing and content strategies differently because we don't fit into that normal hustle culture way. So I very much understand how for you as a neurodivergent person, being online is better. How is it better training the dogs online? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this is I will caveat this with my industry is not as regulated as it should be. So I understand why some folks are hesitant to be like, is this a scam? What do you mean you can train dogs online? So I understand that hesitation that some folks may have. Why it's more effective, we go back to what it is a dog trainer actually does. Now, there are some dog trainers where they just work with your dog. It's the equivalent
Hmm.
of, say, someone working with marine animals in a sanctuary or a zoo. The dog is in their custody. They control all of the aspects of that. But for the average pet dog and pet dog trainer, that's not the dynamic that comes into play. Most of training is actually working with the humans, the
Hmm.
human end of the leash. This is something that is now starting to see more of a push in my industry where people are coming to recognize that. But we're a bit outdated in both our methodology and way of thinking. So some folks are still coming around to this. Why I preface all this is if I can get your dog to do something, but you can't, I didn't do my job properly. Why I preface all of this is for the average dog training situation where you're in a group class or something like this, the goal is to get the human and the dog to understand the lesson to be able to implement this. What I kept being frustrated about, and various clients were being frustrated about, both when I was working under other dog trainers and when I came out and on my own and started having my own practice, was that it's way too much time between sessions if you only work with each other once a week. You're not working with the dog in their home environment. The human is not a dog trainer, so they don't necessarily know how to translate that information from a group class setting or working in your facility to their home environment. So, for a bunch of reasons, I'm always a why does something happen? I was that kid where both elementary school, high school, and university, they would say, okay, Kirsten, we've heard enough from you. You're not allowed to raise your hand anymore. So whenever I come up with a problem, I like to ask why. How can I solve this? Um, and what effective dog training is in the pet industry. And I'm specifying this in case there are others who come from my area of expertise that would get me on the but there are this, and this examples. I'm specifically talking about pet dogs, as in if you're listening to this and you have a dog in your home, you most likely would fall into a category of that where you need a pet dog trainer. My job is to understand why your dog is doing what they're doing, understand whether or not that should be changed or not for their welfare, to be able to tell you what it is that needs to happen in a way that you're able to understand it, and then ensure that you're able to implement that. Now, that is very hard to do in a 45-minute, an hour long session at my training facility or at a park or what
Mm.
have you.
Yeah.
If I go into your home, I immediately change the dynamic of that situation. I could go on a whole like 50-minute rant, so we'll put a pin in this so that way I don't bore people. But there's a lot of reasons why I chose to train the way that I do.
Those things all make a lot of sense in, like, because we got our dog about 9 years ago now.
Mhm.
We got him as a puppy. He was 4 or 5 months old. We weren't sure. Um, but he came to us with very little training. And so we had to find, a professional because we didn't know. We had always, like, we had had older dogs and we had had, like, family dogs or whatever that we hadn't put a lot of training effort into. But this was the first time training one for us, and I was very, very picky about my trainer because I knew that everybody had a very different approach. We ended up working with somebody out of PetSmart, and so part of the bonus of that was getting to take him out into public places. He doesn't love public places though, so it made him uncomfortable. Like, we were hoping that it would help with the socializing and everything. Um, but not as much of it translated. And you have to, like, yeah, and like the people that were doing the training and the people around us changed the whole situation. So that makes a lot of sense.
It's very common. What I will say as succinctly as possible is when you think of dog sociability, like how social a dog is, it is a spectrum. And most people think, oh, all dogs love all people and all dogs all the time. And then when we think of our reactive or nervous dogs, a lot of people will think, oh, they don't like a lot of people and dogs. Most dogs are kind of in the middle. Uh,
Mhm.
m- Similar to humans, most don't love all humans and all dogs. Um, so I think it is tough showing up to, say, like a puppy class where, depending on the owners and the situation, you might not realize whether or not it's going to help your dog or make it harder for them. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but it is such a tough call. It's something that a lot of puppy owners struggle with.
Yeah, it's really hard, and, like, I mean, and then you have some, like, the owners that are just not, they don't follow the same philosophy as you, or, like, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to raise your animals in the same way there's a lot of different ways to raise your kids. But it sounds
Absolutely.
like a lot of what you're doing is more, you're people training. You're
Yeah.
training the people in how to train their dogs, and I think that that sounds so much more beneficial than having a dog trainer because, yeah, it doesn't translate all the time.
I just also think of it as transferable skills. So my goal
Yeah.
is, sometimes we work together for shorter periods of time with my clients, sometimes it's a longer period, but my goal is that you learn skills that you can then translate. So then when something comes up a year now, because same as raising children, it's not like you just do it for a year and then poof, it's done. Amazing. Uh, my goal is that you've learned some of the skills that you may or may not need to hire me again. You might be able to
Yeah.
figure this out on your own.
Yeah. There was little things that, like not repeating things too quickly, giving the dog time to react to, like, your thing, not reacting and pulling on the leash before you give the command. Like, those little things, like, they're things that you have to practice at and you have to get yourself trained to before your dog's going to do them properly, react to them properly.
Absolutely. And the challenge being that, uh, for for one reason or another, sometimes it's hard for people to practice or remember what it is that they need to practice
Mm.
coming from one session to another. So it's why in my dog training practice, we do our weekly calls for the course of the program, but also I text them every day. So every day they get, "Oh, here's your homework." I think
Oh,
I really designed my programs that work for my brain, and so, as you know, if we have ADHD or things like that, it can be hard to remember from
yeah,
one day to the next what it is that you're needing to do. My clients send me videos, so then that way I can be like, "Oh, at minute 3 minutes and 2 seconds, your dog looked at the bird, and you should have done this instead."
yeah,
That's about talking about what they can actually do in their real life and make it concrete so they understand what it is that they're able to do. Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot of
yeah.
skills that you need to handle a dog.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I was telling you this the other day, I am incredibly blessed. My dog is a precious little angel who is just,
Mhm.
like, so easy to train. Like, there's some things that I'm fairly certain I didn't actually teach him, he just was good at. One of them was, he can be in full play mode and
Mm.
just stop. When I say stop, he stops. He sits, he chills. And, one of the first times he did that, I was like, "Did I teach you to do that?" Or downside of it though, I'm I'm a nonverbal communicator for the most part, and especially because it's just me here at my house alone with my dog most of the time. So a lot of my communication with him has become nonverbal
There's nothing wrong with that.
until somebody else tries to tell him to sit, and they're like, "Why doesn't he know how to sit?" And I'm like, "Oh."
Okay.
And he sits, and
We're
I'm
gonna
like, and I just laugh so hard, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no, technically he knows, but literally every time I say sit or want him to sit, I point down and he just, like, and then he instantly does it, so, I mean, I just taught him sign language, really. Um
So I will say this too, and most dog trainers will say, so dogs respond to body language really, really well. What you're talking about here is a cue, because dogs
Mm,
don't speak human.
yeah,
So all that happens is you either teach them this word means this thing, or I do this for my sit. Some people do that for their sit. That's just a hand cue instead. Uh, People think, oh, my dog knows words. They only know words if you've taught them to associate certain words with certain things. Your dog does not speak human, and I say human because it could be English, it could be French, it could be Swahili, it could be whatever. It doesn't
my
matter.
grandparents had their, German Shepherd trained in German, and so all of his commands were in German, which was, again, really funny when somebody else would try to tell him to sit, and he would just, like, look at them. and then we would say, "Sit, sir," and he would. And, like, it was all just
Some
so
dog
funny how they
trainers
learn, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna say anecdotally to that, some dog trainers will teach their dogs weird cues, as in use strange things, because other people can ruin your training with your dog if they use it incorrectly. So there are some people that will intentionally use funny words to mean those various things just so that way other people
Yeah.
can't tell their dog what to do.
We've taught him a few things. If we want him to stop bringing us the toy, like when he keeps bringing it back and we're done playing, we say no, thank you. We taught him politeness. And we did that partially because we thought it was really funny that other people then had to say no, thank you to the dog when they were done playing. They'd be like, no, no, no. And he'd keep bringing it back. And we're like, you have to say no, thank you. Be polite if you don't.
We have to teach you manners. Our dog knows manners, but you don't.
It's so funny, yeah, and he just, and he learned all the things really quickly, so I was definitely really lucky in that, and it terrifies me at the idea of getting another dog because I just can't imagine another one being so easy, so I might be calling you when I do.
Please do. There is now that you've said this, and if this pops up online, you'll be seeing it everywhere. There was a meme trending a while ago from dog owners that have more than one dog, and it was like the sweet baby angel first child that made you think you wanted a second dog. And then pans to the second dog, and it's always
Yeah,
like insert like does
the
not have
chaos
ears
demon
or
and
like,
yeah,
makes you question all of your life choices,
yeah,
things like that.
that's absolutely it. So I've got a couple questions
Please.
I prepared, which is unlike me. First of all, I want to talk a little bit because I know that when we start talking about being chronically ill and having low energy, some dickhead is going to be like, "Well, then why do you have a dog?" Let's talk about why we still have dogs, even though we are chronically ill and low on energy and maybe not always able to keep up with them. How are the
Well,
dogs
first of
helping us?
all, that's ableist. We
Right?
don't like telling folks that, hey, because you're dealing with this, you can't have children or you can't have pets.
Right.
Let's not, you can't be in a relationship, all these things. Let's just stop telling people
Yeah,
what they
right.
can and cannot do.
Love the
Um,
do.
and everything is a spectrum. I think having an animal can be super helpful for folks when they are struggling with neurodivergence, being chronically ill. We just need to be a bit smart about how we manage those things. But saying that, there are a lot of folks that would fall under neurotypical able body, and they still have lives. They still, as we all do, they have work, they have other responsibilities. So it all requires a lot of strategy that most people maybe don't think of until they get the dog and they're like, "Oh, okay, I need a plan now."
Judged far more when we got our puppy for being chronically ill and having bed days that he would hang out with me in the bed and be with me than my brother did having a dog at home that he never saw because he worked full time.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
also opening a can of worms here,
Yeah,
Andy,
right. And I know,
about
you know what? I start fights. It's fine. I'm good with that. Satchmel's bringing me his toy. He knows we're
and
talking about him.
I think that I've just become very aware. I've been fortunate enough to be raised where I was, and you're also having grown up in BC. I live closer to the Greater Vancouver area, so I think that I've just always adopted the approach of like people do things differently, and it's
Yeah.
not my place to judge how people do things. I think also in North America, meaning Canada, the US, we're very quick to judge of like, oh, this is the right or wrong way to do things. And then whenever someone makes that statement, I'm like, okay, this tells me that you've never met someone from another continent other than ours, or like has never been any like people do things differently. And I don't think that I'm the be all end all authority on how people should or should not be living their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. But
So
so let's
no, the
talk about the
TLDR
ways.
there is you're
Yeah.
not irresponsible for having a dog and being chronically ill.
No, we are not judging anybody's. We are talking about why we do and why
Mhm.
they help us. So for me, my dog got me out. My dog got me exercising.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
was the biggest change in my life when we got him. suddenly it was so easy to go for a walk every day
Yep. Mm.
and keep up with that habit.
It also helps keep us on schedule. So a lot of the times, and one of the reasons a lot of times we find out that, say, we're neurodivergent is because school gave us this, for better for worse, structure
Yeah.
and routine, and then we become adults and graduate eventually, and all that jazz. And you're responsible for your own life. Having another living being to take care of can help us stay on track. At the very least, do our like minimal viable product, or I need to find a right term for this. This is me just bringing a business term because I was one of those weirdos that went to business school. Uh, minimal viable product, like minimal viable routine, maybe, or like
Mhm.
checklist. I'm toying around with
Yeah,
this because I actually want to create this resource for pet
absolutely.
owners, especially tailored to folks in our community, because yeah, it's like, okay, you can have the bedrock days and those are typically fine. What on those bedrock days, the dog still needs to be able to go potty, they still need to be able to eat, and they need to like have some sort of enrichment fulfillment. That could be doing things like kongs and chews. This could be playing tug with them if you have the capacity to, or fetch, like just get them to go fetch the ball, bring it
Yes.
back to you in bed. um on a day where you have higher spoons and are maybe feeling like you can get out of bed, but you're still not doing amazing. It's like, okay, let's do the 10-minute walk and, really breaking it down for folks. But dogs love to be where you are. The
Yeah.
caveat I will give is, um, I talk about compatibility a lot when it comes to dogs and humans. A lot of the reasons why people will end up hiring a dog trainer is behavioral issues caused by compatibility mismatch. So, the caveat with that I was going to say is I'm not going to say, oh, don't get this dog breed because you're chronically ill, but more know what type of dog you're entering into a relationship with. And then have a mitigation plan. If on your down days you're not able to fulfill those needs, how are you going to supplement that? And different dogs have different needs, same as humans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always like, oh my gosh, so shocked when people just like, they go and get a high energy dog to like live in their apartment. And I'm like, man, did you research?
And you
Because I don't
can.
judge if you want that dog, but I do judge if you didn't look into getting that dog or anything about that
Exactly.
dog.
And so people are quick to say that for like urban spaces. And I'm like, okay, well, it depends. There are some folks living in the city, but you know what? Their dog is titled in dog sports because every weekend they're taking their dog out of that apartment to go do the thing. So it's all, again, everything or most things can be mitigated so long as there is an underlying level of compatibility.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Also, let's talk about how they help our mental health.
Yes,
And
majorly.
also
Majorly.
how they are hard on our mental health and how we
Mhm.
mitigate that a little bit.
Mhm.
My dog is, he's a comforter. If I get upset, the amount of times I am yelling at my computer and he comes up and like puts his face on my knee
Oh.
and like, "Mom, are you okay?" Like, so cute, love it. So he's so good for my mental health because as soon as I see that, like, it's so much easier to calm down, and then I touch him and I pet him and the tactile and calming right down, he helps with that. However, our last dog that we did have, she was a very high needs, she got sick at the end, she had a lot of seizures, and she whined. Oh my gosh, she made these noises. And I knew for sure then that, like, I had made the right choice in not having kids because her whining sent me over the edge so many times. Let's talk about how we deal with that as neurodivergent people.
Yeah, and we'll break this down to a few different categories as well. Uh, so just touching on this later point too, people can get caregiver burnout from having dogs, especially dogs that are high needs or big feelings. So this can cover from the end of life or having dogs having chronic illness or they have high needs. This can also come from like reactivity, so again more of like the high needs and the mental capacity, just drawing a comparison and using verbiage that your audience might be able to connect with. um So this becomes very difficult when we have a low spoons day and our dog is having a really hard time day. How do you find that balance? It can be very challenging. I think this speaks to somewhat related when I was looking into service dog training and specifically psychiatric service dog training. Just speaking as some of the folks here who are chronically ill or neurodivergent, depending on where they land, they might be having a service dog or interested in that area. Why I'm bringing this up is for psychiatric service dogs. Um, One of the things is sometimes those folks don't love a ton of attention on them for whatever they've got going on. And so then you have the pros and cons list of is it is does the pros of having the dog there task trained and able to support you outweigh the cons that might come from the additional confrontation, the self advocacy that you're going to have to do for the self, the additional attention that the dog is going to draw to yourself. So I was just as a tangential example of very real how the dogs can totally benefit you, but then also they can totally make things
Mhm.
more difficult, and it's a case by case basis of whether or not that's actually gonna work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like so if you're working with somebody and like, maybe everything was good because that was our case with Lexi. Everything was good. She was fine and then she started getting sicker and she chewed and she made all these noises and I started to get like really.
Mhm.
Do you have any good advice for people who are getting into that situation? Their dog's getting older, their dog's getting more reactive, how they can personally, like, obviously, if their dog's sick or something, the dog can't handle it. Like, the dog can't do anything about it. She's not going to stop whining. How do we handle ourselves when our dogs are overstimulating us?
So, I think this comes back to our capacity. I don't know about yourself, but I think of it as I have a fixed number of spoons and they can be variable, right? But I
Mhm.
only have so much that I can give. How much of that needs to go to my work? How much of that needs to go to my dogs? For those that care give for humans, whether or not that be their kiddos or elderly parents, they know that sometimes life priorities shift, right? So it becomes a question of and with no judgment, are we able to handle what our new current reality is? Because I think
Mhm.
part of it is folks will think to themselves, like, everything is the same. I just have this I just need to take care of my dog a little bit more. But the reality is that their reality has shifted and maybe part of that is now they have too much on their plate because they had calibrated their life in a certain way
Yeah.
that worked when their dog wasn't having these issues. So
Yeah.
then comes can we introduce some more self-care? Is there something else that you can take off of your plate? It's taking a critical look of like what are your priorities? What
Yeah.
maybe needs to fall off for a little bit? And maybe it's talk to some expert help. Depending on the situation, it could be working with a dog trainer. It could also be asking your vet because for specific examples, right? If the dog is whining a lot, does that mean that they're in a lot of additional pain, so we need to increase their pain meds? In
Mhm.
which case that might cause less whining and therefore it is less triggering for us or is less difficult for us to deal with. It case by case, the dog barking, that could be working with the dog trainer behavior consultant like
Mhm.
myself. Um, could also be a pain indicator. It depends on the exact situation of that
Yeah.
dog and that human.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, like, what I'm hearing you say is, like, it's really about figuring out what you need to do for yourself to change the situation, like, whether that's changing how you're taking care of the dog. For me, I found getting, noise canceling headphones helped a lot.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, and she paced, and their little nails tippy-tapping. Oh, I don't like, how do I have dogs when that noise frustrates me so much? I don't even know. But
Carpet, rugs.
carpet, rugs, all good. We don't have a rug in our room anymore, and so that's a little bit of a problem, but also, um, my dog's not a barker inside, but he knows his tippy tappies will wake me up,
and he will walk back and forth by my bed when
He's learned. He's
he's
like, "If I
learned
just keep
he's learned that I will
pacing, she'll
react
wake
to that.
up."
Yeah. Yeah, he'll get me up with that. That's so funny. Yeah, there's so many different ways that, like, our dogs are helping us so much, and I've worked with, service dogs as well, and I know what you mean by the, like, it does really add us something because every time we were out with, them and their service dog, it was like the dog was supposed to be helping her get around while also people were more getting in her way because of this
Yeah.
dog or
This is not me
helping
saying you
her
shouldn't
let.
do,
Yeah,
but yeah.
exactly. The amount of times I got to be that, like, super advocate, and I'm like, "Ma'am, away from the dog, pay attention to the person, please." Like, they'd just be like, "Oh," like, so funny.
Or like,
Yeah,
"Did you read the vest? It said to ignore me." 'Cause all of the service
yeah.
dogs or a lot of the service dogs vests will be like, "You don't touch me, don't look at me."
Hey there, bestie. Sorry to interrupt the show, but I'm building something so cozy and I just couldn't wait to tell you about it. If you're loving the cozy vibes of today's episode and wondering how you can make your business feel this cozy without using up any more energy, I would like to invite you to the Cozy Content Creators Club. This is on top of the community that I told you about earlier. It is a low commitment group coaching container and content library designed to help you build a business that works with your energy. As a member of the club, you get access to monthly group coaching and workshops that are created for the tired and busy entrepreneur, including our cozy CEO days and quarterly planning sessions to help you stay consistent with your content, and the Resource Nook with all my best tools, templates, and resources. So if you're ready to make your business feel a little cozier, sign up for the Cozy Content Creators Club today. Right now, until September, you can lock in at the founder's price of only $27 a month Canadian. To join the club, visit chronicallycozylife.com or visit the link in the show notes. Okay, now let's get back to our cozy chat.
So let's talk a little bit about the low energy side of things.
Mhm,
Let's
mhm.
talk about some real practical ways that we can entertain our somewhat high energy dogs when we are low energy.
Absolutely. So, first thing I'm going to suggest, which might sound kind of annoying or roll my eyes at me, but it comes down to what is your regular routine like? If you're regularly meeting your and your dog's needs on a regular basis, if we need to skip a day due to low spoons or low energy, their dog's world isn't going to come crashing down
Yeah.
around them. For the
That was a
moments,
struggle for me at the
Mhm.
beginning, feeling like, if I didn't walk him today, he was going to be like, he was just going to die. And then, I didn't walk him for a day and he was fine because we went the
Mhm,
next day.
mhm.
Yeah. Routine.
There's a difference between consistently not meeting your dog's needs, right? So it's like, oh, you know what? If they only got to go on a walk or sniff or exercise or however it is that you're meeting your dog's needs a couple of days out of the week and you miss the one, of course it's going to be a big deal that you miss the one. But if you're pretty consistent 7 days out of the week and you take a rest day, your dog's going to be fine and take a rest day. For a lot of dogs, there will be people again that will jump in and say, well, the Malinois. Okay, and then we knew what we were getting into, or hopefully with that dog breed, right?
Gosh, I freaking love Malinois. Oh, I love them so much. And I got to meet one more recently that was just like, he was such a sweetheart. And so but he was fully trained as like an attack dog. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's what he did for fun. And which again, if you don't understand dogs, you don't think that that's a fun thing for them, but they freaking love it. They love to clamp on and chew onto something. So it's totally fun and they love it. And then I watched somebody come up to him without the knowledge of what a Malinois does most of the time. Thankfully, this one was so well trained. But I was like, hey, did you know that's an attack dog? That when you put your arms up like that, that's actually a cue for them. And he was like, oh, what? But yeah, so I mean, like the high energy dogs, obviously we're probably not adopting those ones because they need a lot more than what we can do most of the time.
It
I
also,
know
though,
my
comes down to just because I don't
yeah,
wanna have the statement out there of, like, because you're chronically ill, you can't have those
yeah,
dogs.
no,
Why I am screaming from the rooftops about compatibility is because I always ask people, "Why do you want a dog?"
yeah,
Right? And then we pick, why do you want a dog? What can you provide for that dog? And then we pick a dog based off of those answers. So there are some folks who do want to do bite sports, or they want to go hike the 49ers, they want to go hike the big mountains, and maybe that's why they want the Doctoler, or these types of things. Makes sense. And there are chronically ill folks out there who do that
yeah,
when they can.
yeah.
And so therefore they might end up with those kinds of breeds. It just kind of depends on the individual.
Well, yeah, and I met this well, while I was working with someone with a service dog, she was taking him to a park to do the running through the hoops and the jumping over things and through the
Agility
tubes
or
and
hoopers.
everything.
Yeah.
She's in a wheelchair. She's not chasing him around. She just taught him the cues. There was a lot of people who like normally ran around with the dog. They were like, "How could you do that?" And it's like, people
You
adapt
can.
to a lot of different things. Yeah. Um, so one of the questions I had, was the walking.
Mm.
So, obviously, like, walking is good for them, we all like walks, walking's good for all of us. They get a lot out of the sniffing and stuff,
Mhm.
though, and so what are some good options for those of us who can't do the walks as often? What are the good, like, activities and stuff that, like, maybe we can do in the backyard or in the living room on the days when we can't do the walks?
Okay. I'm going to caveat this with, I'm assuming that your dog is also able bodied when I
Yeah.
give you these suggestions, right?
Yeah.
If you have a dog with arthritis or maybe some undiagnosed
Oh, yeah,
spinal issues, uh, this
when
is
they
my
can't walk,
disclaimer.
it's a whole different story, but when they're
Yes.
still up and running around and jumping and you're like, I cannot go for that walk."
So
I
one
mean,
really good one is in your hallway. You can sit down on the ground and have your dog jump over your knees back and forth. So
that's
that's
fun.
fun little agility thing at home. Similarly with up and down the stairs is an option. Um, Having them do little fetch indoors. There are a bunch of toys and games you can do. You can get tug toys that you can like stick on your wall or or anchor to the floor where your
Yeah,
dog can just tug back and forth. There are both ball launchers and treat launchers that you can use via remote to get your dog to go
yeah,
after these things. Why I caveated this with if your dog is okay with their spine is because there will be vets out there saying that, like, no, don't let your dog zoom up and down the stairs if
yeah,
they're prone to these things. I know this is the case with my dogs. This is why I'm giving this disclaimer.
yeah,
Um, if you're going to do something indoors with your dogs, like I just suggested, having them jump over or run around, I would suggest putting down either carpet or rugs to make sure, because a lot of dogs end up with repetitive strain injuries from slipping on hardwood floors and linoleum, things like that.
I know, I'm always worried about that one because we have hardwood floors and we have a carpet in our living room that we like I'll sit on the carpet and play tug with him and throw it around, but then, you throw it off the carpet and he goes and slides. And, oh my gosh, he just, like, cannot go half-assed. He has to go full force every time he wants to run at something. So every time he slides, I swear, the fact that he hasn't hurt himself more often actually really surprises me. Um,
Knocking on wood. What I
yeah,
will add
right?
to, for the less active aspects of it, and ones that actually really use your dog brain, are things like scent games. So you can teach your dog odor detection, or you can Google this later, or anyone who's listening. There are dogs that have learned to play hide and go seek with their treats. So their owners will like hide treats around the house. Can be like an Easter egg, or you can just do it one at a time
Yeah.
and have your dog sniff it out. Be careful with that, don't get rats. The second
Make
thing
sure
I
they
was gonna
always find the treats.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Why is there scurrying up in the
Yeah,
walls? Well, uh, second thing was gonna be trick training. You can teach your dog these things online. Um, Do more with your dog.com has a bunch of tricks that you can teach your dog. And then actually, which is super great for us folks that like to stay in our home for whatever reason or another, you can get them certified for like trick titles. Like you can get your dog can get awards because you just film them and send them in to judges, and dog trainers like me that are certified though to judge these tricks review and will say, yeah, your dog is intermediate or novice or whatever. And that really uses their brain.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And like, do you feel like, I mean, again, obviously the walking is good. They need all the exercise and stuff. But like, as they're getting older, do you feel like that's a good amount of stimulation if that's what they're doing most of the time is doing those tricks and the playing and the stuff like that?
I will always defer to the vet because same as no human ages the same, dogs don't necessarily age the same either. There can be 13-year-old dogs that are still doing agility versus 6-year-old dogs that have hip dysplasia and all these things and are having a harder time. So it just does really depend. What I will say is always ask the why you're doing something and make sure that the activity is meeting your dog's needs. So, why we like walks. There's the actual exercise of moving their muscles, moving their body, but also a lot of times why we're such advocates for walks is actually the sniffing portion, right? So, say if you're doing the sniffing games at home, that can kind of mimic that situation. Um, Even not able bodied, the first thing a lot of dog trainers will do when your dog is really reactive on walks is maybe we take a break from the neighborhood walks for a while because they're doing more harm than good. So it's not even oh, if the dog is older or not. It just depends on why we're doing what they're doing,
Is it
and
stressing
why
them
you.
out or
Yeah, it's like pros and cons, right? Do the pros outweigh the cons, and that's kind of a case by case basis.
yeah, fair. I know Satchmo loves the walks and he loves the sniffing and he loves the sniffing more.
Hmm.
So sometimes I will just take him like just outside and just
Yeah,
let him sniff because honestly, for me, being hypermobile, just stopping and
yeah,
standing there is actually so hard. If I
yeah.
keep walking, if I keep going, I'm fine. But he wants to stop. And oh my gosh, he can stop so dead. Like it trips most people up. And I'll put his leash around my waist. I have a wearable leash because my
Hmm.
shoulders aren't always as, good as I'd like them to be, so I don't wanna, like, have him pull or something, but, oh, he'll just come to a dead stop and just wanna focus on that. He'll sniff and sniff and sniff, and then, everybody else is like, "Come on, let's go." So, whenever he, gets into that mood, I'll take him to just outside and let him sniff at whatever the other dogs have come across. He gets weirded out when I bring him right back inside and we don't go for a walk, but
How do you find it? Will the stopping and sitting help you? Like, what do you do that you take him outside in the front instead of doing the walk?
So what I do, I mean, so I live in a really nice little neighborhood with a good little block, and so I can only really do the block, which is about a 20-minute walk, not too much hills kind of thing. So we have a path. And so this really only works with me and it messes up every time he tries to go for a walk with somebody else because they don't know his stopping spots. So I have stopping spots. He gets to sniff here and here and here on these places. And then everywhere else, he moves to the other side of me and he walks very nicely. This is one of those things that he's just gotten very good with me because he knows me and we have a routine. Like you
Yeah.
were saying, the routines are good. But yeah, I've just found that like I just kinda give him his spots to sniff,
Mm.
and they're the spots I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of other dogs are definitely stopping and smelling. I also don't like to let him, like, pee on everybody's, lawn and stuff like that, like, everybody doesn't need their lawns killed or whatever, so most of their stopping spots are where there's rocks and stuff like that too. I haven't really found good option otherwise, other than just keeping him moving, and he's fairly good, like, he wants to get his sniff in, but then I say, "Okay, let's go," and he reluctantly goes, "Boom." You can almost see him making that face at you.
I was thinking through of I don't know if this is a thing by you. I'm not an advocate for the dog park just because of all of the horror stories I've seen over the years.
So many.
But there's something called sniff spots. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've heard of it. I wonder if we do have some here.
I'm
I
just
could look
thinking,
in.
and it doesn't necessarily even need to be sniff spots. So I'm wondering if oh, could it be a we're gonna go date picnic, you and your husband, or go sit somewhere chill,
He
bring the
hates that.
hammocks or the
If
camp.
we just go somewhere and sit,
Yeah,
he gets so mad. Unless he
he
still
does
gets
or
to go
you
run
do.
around, but
Oh, no, but that's what I mean, like,
yeah.
if there's somewhere safe where you could sit and
Or
chill, but he
yeah,
could run around and then take
that.
the sniffs as much as you want of, like doesn't need to be an every day. I was just thinking of a way to accommodate maybe him getting some, like, different sniffs, but you not needing to, like, stop there with him every
Yeah.
single time, you know?
Yeah, it would be nice to find more of those around here. I would really like to. That would be nice, and especially, like, as he is getting older, that'll be, a good thing for him to just be able to go sniff around. But like you said with the dog parks, the hardest part is having a space where it can be just him. He doesn't
Yeah.
super love the other dogs, like, he doesn't really wanna play with them, and if he does, he has one of those barks that just kinda always sounds a little mean,
Mm.
and that's his play bark. I know that, but the other people don't know that, and the
Oh.
amount of times I had to try and, like, he'd be running up to another dog and barking at them like that, and they're like, "Your dog's vicious," and I'm like, "He's not, he wants to play with your dog. Does your dog not wanna play? Because I can call him back." Like, he's just barking. Barks don't sound nice. Like, I
No,
don't know
they
what
don't.
you want him to
Part
do.
part of the challenge is just a lot of times, uh there are a lot of dog owners out there that just don't really know their dogs that well or don't know dogs in general that well.
Yeah,
So that's always something that you need to navigate. Back to the whole, well, some days when I have low spoons, I don't want to have to navigate that situation. So I will choose what I do with my dogs accordingly, also with just how much I can deal with other humans and the
yeah.
possible mistakes they'll make on that given day.
I wish there was. I fully understand why there's not, and I am the type of person that will get very mad at a person for having their dog off leash when they're not supposed to,
Mhm,
because I do
mhm,
not want your dog running up to mine. Mine does not want
mhm,
your
mhm,
dog near him if he's on a
mhm,
leash,
mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
I think it's just the
Normal.
rudest thing ever. But I do
Yeah.
really wish there were more places where it could be like, "You can have your dog off leash here, but it's not a dog park." And we just don't have many of those, like, if I could just take him down to the field that's, like, almost always empty right by my house and throw the ball for him, he'd be so happy. But last time I tried to do that, somebody yelled at me, I was like, "Well, the park was empty 2 seconds ago, you just showed up, and I brought my dog back and put him right back on a leash." And they still yelled at me, and I'm like, "Okay. I would've done the same thing." I've had so
This
many
leads into
arguments.
a broader conversation too
Yeah,
of what we gave up when we privatized the commons, as in the environment and
yeah,
the
yeah,
spaces around, because it has become more difficult depending on where you live uh, to have a dog by nature of, unless you are going to pay for the sniff spots or be an
yeah,
independently wealthy individual with lots
with
of
yeah.
land. Sometimes, depending where you live, it is hard to find those places to exercise your dog.
Yeah, it's such a shame that that is just kind of the way of things now. But, like, we have, it's called Mission Creek here, and it's, like, such a nice walkway. I can't go because 9 times out of 10, I run into somebody with 3 or 4 big dogs walking around off leash, and they're like, "They're trained," and I'm like, "Then why are they running up to me?" They are not trained. If I see somebody, though, that has their dog, like, on a down stay on the side of the pathway as I'm walking by, I will praise that person so much. That person's obviously put so much work into having their dog be very controllable. Still though, I just I always feel like why would I let my dog off leash in a place that I don't 100% know what's going on? We came across one time just after getting Satchmo, we were out on a walk. No, I think it was actually before we got him. We came across a couple who had let their dog walk off leash on a trail that wasn't technically an off leash trail, but he got hit by a porcupine. And I was like, "Well, why was your dog sniffing in a bush you couldn't see?" Like, I get dogs need to be dogs, but also you need to be a parent. Like,
Yep.
you need
Yep.
to be controlling your dog. And the amount of times we have dogs just run off their yards at us, and I'm like, it's cool that you want to have your dog off leash in your yard, but you can only do that if he's not going to run out. Because what if it was a car? What if it was another vicious dog?
And other both dog trainers and dog owners would probably give me flack for saying this. I don't think there's any reason why your dog needs to be off leash in areas that they're legally not allowed to be off leash in.
Never.
That there's the exception obviously is service dogs, because some service dogs are off leash. That is a different story. If your
Always.
dog's not a service
Yeah.
dog, that is not needed. Um, for the fact that so many people say, well, like my dog would never do that. Well, also the people whose dogs do that also say that. A, B, it's a law for a reason. You're not above the law. I don't care how much you've trained your dog. You're still breaking the law. In my opinion, you should be charged for breaking the law if it's
100%.
applicable. The amount of times that my dog has been attacked 3 times on both on leash and off leash areas. Like dogs were allowed on leash and dogs were allowed off leash. My dog was doing whatever the relevant thing was for that particular area 3 times. That now, whenever she sees a dog on or off leash, we've built her confidence up. Of course, she's going to
Yeah.
be nervous.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, unless they've had a reactive dog, they don't think about other people and their dogs, which I've never gotten because I've always just been someone of like, even if this thing doesn't affect me, why would I do something that, but I know that not everybody is that way, right? There's just no reason for it. Also, if anyone wants to come say these things, feel free and come in my DMs. I will tell you many, many stories of when I was a dog walker, when I've worked at boarding facilities, all these things of one time I was a dog walker and I dropped a dog off at home. And this neighbor, the dog ran out the front door, crossed the street, got hit by a car, saw the dog go flying. I've seen dogs chase bears up trees. I,
Satchmo chased a bear once. Also, my mom's Pomeranian tried to chase a moose once. That was by far the funniest and scariest thing I have ever seen.
Guys, for those who are listening that are not Canadian, that's actually more concerning, the dog chasing the moose than the dog
So
chasing the bear.
concerning.
Like, if you're not from here, you might not get that, but the moose is more concerning than the bear.
So we were out at our cabin and this moose, like it was a female moose. She came into our yard. Like this is not normal, but like we know that there's moose in the area.
Mm.
I was puppy sitting my mom's Pomeranian. I look out and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this moose. And all of a sudden I hear, yip, 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 yip. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to explain to my mom that her dog just got smashed by a moose. He
Yeah.
ran right up to this thing. Like they are like 1,200 pounds. Like they're
Yeah, guys, if you're not from here, like moose are not deer. Like,
8 feet
you're
tall,
thinking Bambi, it's not.
huge, angry.
Mhm.
This moose looked at the Pomeranian with pure fear in its eyes, backed up like it was in a cartoon, and booked it.
Nice.
And thankfully the Pomeranian came back because he doesn't always. He was not greatly trained. Oh man, it was probably like, it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen a dog do. This dog had no fear for the fact that he was like literally 3 pounds. Just insane. So amazing. But yeah, please always keep your dogs on leash. And by all means, if you want to come and fight with either of us about any of these things, we will wholeheartedly have that conversation as nicely as possible. But still, laws are laws. And you're right about that. And I know, like, part of me always feels like I've got that like autistic sense of justice going on when like I get so angry at this, but also it's so dangerous for your dog, for my dog, for other people. Like not all people, for some reason, like dogs.
Yeah.
Some people have had bad experiences. Oh my gosh, I worked with the Boys and Girls Club at one point,
Mm,
and I took a bunch of kids to a park, like, with other people and everything. And a couple people let their dogs out of their vehicle off leash, just let them run out into the park with all of these children around. They were golden retrievers. They were sweet. They were very nice. I had one kid clinging to me. She was terrified. And
yeah.
I'm sure that they
No.
were then terrified of me. And those dogs got on a leash very freaking quickly because if you're gonna mess with dogs or children around me, mm,
No.
we're gonna
Guys,
start a
not
fight.
everyone needs to love your dog. That is okay. They don't need to have to interact with your dog. That is fine. There's nothing wrong with your dog, uh, because someone doesn't like them. People got their preferences. Uh, your dog does not need to go up and greet every person.
No.
What annoys me about that too is people do that to go into the dog park and stuff as well. I'm like, great, we're gonna have doggy fight club in the parking lot before we even get to the dog park, or your dog's gonna get hit by a car because somebody's reversing.
Yeah. Just please, people, keep your dog on a leash.
Mhm,
Just
mhm,
please.
mhm,
Just for all of us.
mhm.
Okay, thank you so much for coming and chatting about dogs. This is literally
Of
like one of my
course.
most favorite things to talk about, and I will talk about my dog so much. And I'm so excited that we are going to also talk about my dog on your podcast tomorrow. So please tell us about your podcast, first of all, because I would like to know about that, and I would like my followers to come follow you.
Oh, thank you. That's too kind. Yeah, my podcast is called Dear Dog Fanatic. I tote myself as essentially the Ask Abby advice columnist, but for dog people of the internet. Sometimes it's Reddit reactions where I explain from like a dog trainer's perspective what's going on or what I would do to train that situation. Sometimes it's listener write-ins, so folks will write in like I'm Abby and ask, say, my dog is struggling with this. Do you have any advice? And recently, I've started having also guests come on the podcast, both experts in my industry and others, but also just folks with dogs who maybe want to ask that question in person live. The latest episode I did was with Abby and Wizard, and Wizard is a dog with complicated big feelings. So we spent a good 45 minutes figuring out what a plan would look like that would actually work for them in their life. No two dogs are the same, and we get into that on the podcast.
I love that so much. So if you have dogs and you're wanting to learn more, please go check Kay out and her podcast. And then where can they find you if they want to work with you?
The Canine Detective, that will take you to my Instagram or my website, and everywhere that I am on the internet is under that handle.
Nice. I love that. Is that like, was it a play on the pet detective at all?
When I was studying to become a behavior consultant, that's I don't want to stay a step above you become a dog trainer and then you can become a behavior consultant afterwards with additional time training, etc. And when I started working with behavior cases, because you need to build a behavior modification plan, I was speaking with my mentor, my instructor, and she was saying, oh, like, you need to look at the clues and then we're going to pierce them
Yeah.
together to figure this out. And I'm a big fan of mystery. I was a Scooby Doo fan, love Agatha Christie. Um, and so that's what I do is I look for the clues in the dog and the person in every specific case and then figure out how to solve that for everybody.
I love that. That's so awesome. So if you are struggling with chronic illness or low energy or neurodivergence and learning how to train your dog is very difficult, please go see Kay
Oh,
at the
thank you.
Canine Detective. She will help you out. Thank you so much for being here and for everyone who came to watch. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed and you want to learn more, you can check me out at chronicallycozylife.com. All of the links are all down below. I'll link all of Kay's stuff down there as well. And if you have some tips that you want to share with the chronically ill and neurodivergent community, either working or, life stuff, come and chat with me. I've got an application. It's also linked down below, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all, and we will see you next week.